So I have a video planned for the near future on the occult history of mathematics. I'm not going to do it yet. Just thought I'd throw that out there. It might be tomorrow, might be later today. I don't know yet. But this video is going to be about Joe Biden and how Joe Biden, despite being practically an invalid, is governing better than Donald Trump. And people will go, well, how can you say that? What makes you say that? What makes me say that is the press conference that Biden just held with the press, dealing with the meeting that he had with President Putin of Russia. Now, a lot of people, I'm not a Putin worshiper. A lot of U.S. nationalists are Putin worshipers. I have a great deal of respect for Vladimir Putin as far as his history, his knowledge, his ability to govern the way he governs as a Machiavellian genius. I have a great deal of respect for him with respect to these things. I do not think that Russia is an ally of the United States. I do not think Putin seeks to make Russia an ally of the United States. However, what the problem we had under Trump was a big crybaby. We have Putin's patience to thank for not going into World War II, World War III. What am I thinking about? Well, we have Putin's patience to thank for us not going into World War III. The reason why I say that is the United States has, since the Bush administration, taken it up on itself to keep pushing closer and closer to Russia in that part of the world and to assert our dominance in the former Eastern Bloc. And we have Putin's patience to thank for things not escalating the way they could escalate. Okay? I mean, we also have the military might of the United States to thank for that. We have a very powerful military, mostly due to technology, not due to the greatness of the individuals serving in the military. However, we have to thank Vladimir Putin's sense in understanding the negative outcome, the lose-lose outcome of going to war with the United States, versus the attitudes of presidents like George W. Bush, Barack Hussein Obama, and Donald Trump. Joe Biden seems to have a more sensible take on things. He seems to be seeking mutual cooperation where mutual cooperation can be pursued. And he seems to be sticking to his guns in some things that I would consider reckless, such as supporting the Ukrainians. But the fact of the matter is, Trump was very easily hornswoggled by Putin throwing him a couple compliments. Okay, he was very, and I'm going to leave a link to that former CIA operative stating that, Trump is just very easily manipulated if somebody says, hey, nice tie. I mean, he was a moron. He was a complete moron. I don't think Biden is that stupid. I do think he's an invalid. I mean, for God's sakes, the guy can't walk up steps. I also think that Biden, unlike Trump, has a value system, a set value system, emphasized by his history in conservative politics as a conservative. And people will go, well, how are you? People will ask me, am I a conservative? Am I a liberal? Am I a Democrat? Am I a Republican? Currently now I'm registered as a Democrat, okay, to vote. I am registered as a Democrat. Prior to that, I was registered, when Trump was in office, I was a Republican. I switched over to vote for Tulsi Gabbard. I'm not a liberal or a conservative. I've never really been a liberal or a conservative. In my private life, I consider myself to be a social conservative, although some things not so much. But in my private life, I am a social conservative. I have socially conservative values. I gave up being a conservative politically speaking when I voted for Donald Trump. And people will go, what do you mean? Donald Trump was perhaps the least conservative president we have ever had in the history of this country. He's pro-trans, pro-homosexual, pro-criminal. For God's sakes, anybody that thinks President Trump is pro-police, pro-law enforcement, should take into consideration that he worked with, through Jared Kushner, worked with Ice Cube, the the guy that wrote the song "Fuck the Police." I'll leave a link to the song so people can understand what that song is about. Okay, what is that song about? That's a very anti-law enforcement song. But you have President Trump working with somebody that did that, working with Kanye West and Candace Owens and Kim Kardashian and Jared Kushner to let tens of thousands of potentially dangerous criminals out of prison. Okay, so I mean, these are not conservative values that President Trump was putting out. He's also pro-trans. Who remembers when he was saying that he'll let Caitlyn Jenner or Bruce Jenner or whatever use the bathroom in Trump Tower now, was he pandering to the trans community? Maybe, but he's also stated that he doesn't view things with the trans and the gays and things like that to be negative, because perhaps it's because he's from New York. He was also in a pro-gay pride commercial with Rudy Giuliani, where he was basically making out with Rudy Giuliani. That was like, come on. Is that conservative? Are you going to call that conservative? No. And a lot of the things about abortion that people are crediting to Donald Trump, and I've made videos about this and why I think it's absolutely ridiculous. I'm against the heartbeat bills because I see white women that have been raped by blacks and Chicanos that have been encouraged to rape white women by their leadership. I see that as the only act of self-defense in a world that does not allow white people the right to self-defense, which is what we see currently. But the fact of the matter is, most of the pro-life legislation that's been going on, that's been taking place in local and in state governments, not in the federal government and not under Trump. And it's still taking place now under Joe Biden. So, I mean, let's get our facts straight here. President Trump, or former President Trump, had extremely little to do or nothing to do with these pro-life heartbeat bills and all this other horse crap coming out of the local and state governments. That was the governors and the local governments doing this. It was not, and the state governments doing this, and the state legislators. This was not the federal government doing this. This was not the executive branch doing this under Trump, and it's not the executive branch doing it now. And people thought Biden would cave to China. He has not caved to China. That was a thing that everybody thought, oh, he's going to cave to China. No, he's not. And a lot of people like to use that his son had connections in China. And what I would like to say about that, and I've been saying this the whole time, and I'm not pro-Biden. I am pro-Tulsi Gabbard. I'm actually very disappointed that Biden won. Okay, but you have to support the best candidate, and I hardly supported him. I was just saying vote for him over Trump if you're going to bother voting. I didn't bother voting. I'm not going to vote for either of these idiots, okay? But the fact of the matter is, I'm not a Biden supporter. I'm a Tulsi Gabbard supporter, and hopefully she will be running in 2024. But my point is that I think a lot of his son's connections to Ukrainians and the Chinese, I think that was blown out of proportion. I draw doubt in as to how much Joe Biden even knew any of this was going on. I don't think he did. Okay, I don't think there's any proof that he did. However, what's interesting is after President Trump met with Xi Jinping, a lot of Ivanka Trump's nonsense in China, mind you, the Trump family, Ivanka Trump and Donald Trump, who have these companies that manufacture, garbage, overpriced garbage, mind you, that's being manufactured in China. China, not the United States. Okay? So this America First idiot that claims to be America First is having his products and his daughter's products manufactured in China. And seemingly, I'm not saying definitely, and I'm not even saying allegedly, because I don't think anybody's alleged this, but seemingly when he met with Xi Jinping and attacked Syria, mind you, attacked Syria, remember he promised not to attack Syria when he was running, and which is not a conservative stance because it's a pro-Israeli stance. Being pro-Israel is not a conservative stance, despite how many conservatives want to say it's a conservative stance. It's not. A conservative is a nationalist, and that's non-nationalist to put our people at risk for an alien country. But the point is that it seems like Trump was throwing his weight around to get favors out of the Chinese government. Now, Biden has not caved to China. He has not caved on immigration. He has not caved on anything. He's upheld everything that Trump has decided to uphold. As far as I'm aware, the Trump tax breaks for the super, super, super wealthy are going to stay in place, so he's even making the super, super rich happy. My point is that Biden has governed far better than Trump. He has continued to govern far better than Trump, and this has primarily to do with his experience as a senator. Trump didn't even know what NATO was, he said. Now, I support withdrawing from NATO. I don't think that it's beneficial for the United States to be supporting the defense of a bunch of European countries that don't want to put in their fair share. Okay, into their own defense budgets, and for us to be training all these people. I think that the United States military needs to focus on the United States and the protection of the United States. And I agreed with Trump when he said he wanted to withdraw from NATO. His excuse for not withdrawing us from NATO was he didn't know what NATO was. That's really what he said. He didn't know what NATO was at the time he was running for office. Okay? Do you think somebody that didn't know what NATO was as they're running for president should have the right to run again? And this is why I seriously think that the Constitution needs to be amended to make sure that this nonsense doesn't happen again. I still have to write that list of amendments I would make to the Constitution. But one very important amendment I would make to the Constitution is that every president ever elected should have to serve at least one term, one full term of duty in at least one of the United States Armed Services, whether it's the Coast Guard or the Air Force or the Army or the Navy or the Marines or even Border Patrol or Customs or something like that, or the Department of Homeland Security or something. I mean, you can't have people that are this disconnected from reality as we did under Trump. It's absurd. But basically, the gist of this video, and I'll leave links in the description, is that Biden, all these people screwing with Biden about this and that and that, he's been governing far better than Trump. He hasn't passed any psychotic anti-gun legislation like Trump. That's another thing. People are so worried about the anti-gun legislation and one frickin' 1-point voters that are, the guns, he's going to take Trump took your guns, you idiots. Trump took your guns with the red flag laws. Now, Biden didn't repeal those the red flag laws, but the reason why is because he's a Democrat, okay? So why is he going to take back something that plays into a Democrat worldview when it benefits the Democrats, but it happened under Trump? Trump governed like a Democrat. Trump was a Democrat, okay? Trump was a liberal Democrat. Biden is a conservative Democrat. And I think it's funny because you have Kamala Harris and Joe Biden that are being praised by the radical left simply because they're not Trump. This is what's so hilarious. Trump, who is a member of the radical left, as you can tell by the things he did when he was in office, Trump is the most radically left president we've ever had. Biden was probably ideologically, on a personal level, the most radical left president we've ever had, but, well, maybe not. He's probably tied for Trump. But Trump actually put the radical left agenda in motion with executive orders and everything else, and the radical left still hates him, like people like me and David Duke were telling him, you know, the radical left is always going to hate you, the minorities are always going to hate you, double down. Help the people that voted you in, the everyday working class Americans that voted for you. But Trump didn't want to hear any of that. He wanted to continue to pander to the radical left. And he spent 4 years pandering to the radical left, pandering to minorities, and they still hate him. Meanwhile, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, two of the most conservative Democrats, I mean, seriously, like, you're talking the most conservative Democrats. If you don't believe me, look at Kamala Harris's record on law enforcement. If you don't believe me, look at Joe Biden's record on law enforcement. If you don't believe me, just listen to what Kamala Harris said in Guatemala. If you don't believe me, watch frickin' Joe Biden with the Senate, on the Senate floor, talking about the Biden crime bill. You can't beat the fact that Kamala Harris and Joe Biden are probably two of the most conservative Democrats that are now being praised by Antifa and the radical left and all these other crazy morons that don't recognize that they just elected somebody thousands of times more conservative than Donald Trump. And that's what's so frickin' hilarious about the whole thing. But that's all for this video. There will be links in the description.